All right, so welcome everybody to our Topical Tuesday right before spring break. Hopefully you guys are ready, you're geared up, you had a great, fantastic St. Patrick's Day wearing green, and the kids had fun, and no leprechauns came and ruined any of your fun. So we know that right now you're getting ready to start your spring activities with doing an inventory, your collection development, and something in between there is weeding and going through your collection. So we thought that today would be a great time to just go over some reminders, some refreshers of best practices when going through your collection and determining whether or not to weed something. Topical Tuesday is sort of like our PLC. You're going to get cumulative points at the end of the year. This is how we are going to track your attendance. So please take a second and sign in using the QR code or the link that's provided in the chat box. I will go ahead and copy and paste the link again for you, and I'll give you 1 second to sign in. If you cannot sign in right now, also remember that you can email me for it, or we will get the attendance once this meeting is over, and we'll be able to see everybody who is in attendance through the Google attendance sheet. There is a lot of us on here. You may have questions at the end, or Kimberly might ask for questions after her presentation. So please just keep your microphone on mute unless you are called upon. And if you have a question, either write it in the chat box or use the hand symbol at the bottom of the screen, and she'll get to you when she can. So like I said, today is going to be with our very own Kimberly Bauer. She will walk us through her presentation of the weeding. If you would like to follow along with her, please use the QR code attached in the presentation. That way you have a copy as well. All right, Kimberly, when you are ready, it's turned over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for joining us today. And we will provide you with the link to that presentation when we send our follow-up email. I'm going to share my screen and go through this presentation. I'm using the Weeding with the Crew method, which is a reading manual for modern libraries. I updated it and edited it so it would be relevant to our district and the policies and practices and procedures that we have in place here. So first, we want to talk about what is weeding. We know that as we're checking books in and out, we're going to notice the condition of books. Weeding is taking books out that are no longer in good condition, no longer relevant, no longer accurate, or no longer fit within the scope of your library programming. So one of the reasons that we write our collection development plan is that it helps us to be mindful of the programs that are offered at our schools so that we can keep that in mind as we are collecting and deselecting materials for our library. The Crew method, you'll hear us say the Crew method, and that means continuous review, evaluation, and weeding. And this method integrates all the processes in a smooth, streamlined, ongoing routine. You're always weeding. You're always thinking of books that you're going to add to the collection. You're always going to be in the process of weeding. If somebody brings a book back that has been damaged in some way, you're going to make sure not to reshelve that book. And we're not even thinking about it. It's just part of our processes most of the time. Sometimes you do have a more in-depth, a deeper weeding process, and we're going to talk about that too. The reasons for weeding. We want our students to come into the media center and be excited to come in there and to see the displays and the books that are available for them. And we want the library's reputation to be reliable and relevant. We don't want our kids to have the opinion or the thought process that they never have any books that I like in the library. We want to make sure that we're appealing to the needs of both the teachers and the students in our media centers. We want to also save time and space. There's nothing worse than, well, there probably are a few worse things, but it makes it more challenging to go and find a nonfiction book for a teacher who has come in and asked for support and asked for some titles in a certain area, to have to weed through multiple volumes that are never checked out, and it just makes the process more tedious when you have to sort through all of the old and dilapidated, poor condition books. So if you take those books out as you go along, then it's going to save you time when you need to go and find a book as well. There are many reasons why people hesitate to weed. Um, it can be very time consuming. And I've heard some individuals say that, well, it's better to have books on the shelf than no books on the shelf. Um, so we'd rather have these old ones because we don't know if we'll have money to replace it. Um, if the kids aren't going to be checking the books out, then it's not really a benefit to have the shelves full. It's more desirable to have shelves that are sparsely filled, but contain books that your students want to check out. There are individuals who feel that books are sacred and it doesn't matter how damaged they are or how outdated, that they have to be preserved. Our school libraries are not historical collections. There are libraries that are like that, and there is a purpose for those libraries to retain books of that nature. But for our libraries, we want books that are current and relevant to the student population that is at our schools right away. Some people may feel afraid, like they may think that they might weed books that they shouldn't weed, or how do I know I'm weeding the right book? Um, these are valid concerns. These are things that have been indicated as reasons and obstacles for weeding, but we're going to try to work through some of these and make the weeding process not as intimidating by helping you understand how to do a more detailed weeding process. Before you start your weeding process, you're going to run a tidal wave analysis report, and you're going to use that to evaluate your collection. We're not overly concerned about the age of your collection because we understand that many collections will have some older literature, and that will pull down the age of your collection to an earlier date. But we do want your books to be relevant to the students that you serve. You're going to review your current collection development plan and become familiar with the community of users and the goals for your collection. So those are the things that you're going to keep in mind and look at and consider while you are going through this process. You'll hear and you'll see on your tidal wave report that there are must-see guidelines. And must-see represents, is an acronym for misleading, ugly, superseded, trivial, irrelevant, or maybe obtained elsewhere. We don't want to mislead our students, so when there's, especially in the nonfiction section, when there are resources that might make a student think something about an individual in a biography section that is no longer accurate because the person is still living. That's something that you might want to consider. Students don't want to carry around ugly books. If the information isn't relevant to them, then that's part of your consideration. And it is your consideration as a media specialist. You are the one that makes these determinations. We also know that we don't have budgets for our libraries to contain every book that every student in our school would like to read. So it's okay to refer them to community libraries as well. And some of the books can be obtained elsewhere. For all of your materials, the criteria that you're going to use, the condition, if you have multiple copies of the same title, you may want extra copies of the title during a current Teen Reads or Sunshine State year. But once that year is passed, maybe you don't need as many copies of those titles. So you could just pick the best looking one or two of those and let the other ones go. You'll also keep in mind legislative compliance. We'll always keep you up to date with any changes that you need to look at with your collection regarding legislation and district policy. When you look at the juvenile and young adult sections, there are additional things to consider. You want to make sure that the books are at the reading level that is accessible to your students, that they're currently interested in the subject matter. The format of the book and the jacket art and the illustrations can be a turn off if it's really dated. There are some like wood cutting, pencil drawings, some older forms of artwork that are not as appealing to some of our students today. So those are things that you can consider. And of course, we need to make sure that it's age appropriate for the students in our media centers. Regarding periodicals, you may or may not have newspapers, magazines, um, encyclopedias, those kinds of materials that would typically be in a reference section because of available space. And more recently, more currently, we have online databases. So it's easier for our students to access, more accessible for most of our students to use the online databases. Other weeding considerations, this looks like a long laundry list. Sometimes the simplified classics are abridgments, but they may not be well done. You want to look at the reviews and look at the information about these series to determine if you feel that the classics have been simplified, but so that they're accessible to your students, but also not lacking in the storyline. Regarding series books, if you have book 4, 5, and 6 in a series, but you don't have book 1, 2, and 3, you need to consider, do I want to order 1, 2, and 3, or do I want to just let that series go? Older titles, travel and geography, borders are changing, science, medicine, invention, technology, computer sciences. These are areas that are more sensitive to aging. And there on the tidal wave analysis, you will see that there is a section for giving you candidates for weeding based on the crew method. Biographies, textbooks, we don't keep textbooks in the collections. We don't have class sets in our media center. Reference materials, much of that is online. You may have some reference material that's a decision based on What is being used in your school? Do you have a teacher who has students use dictionaries or thesauruses? It's not a bad thing to have if it's something that's being used. Professional library, you can have an area for your teachers that it has material that's just for them. Non-book formats. You need to consider, do you still have the technology available for the teachers in order to present the materials that are in these other formats? When you have books that you are weeding and you place them in the boxes and you put on the weeding label, you are going to follow the guidelines. We have this on Library Current regarding how to get the weeded materials out of your school. The requesting for pickup, it must come through the instructional materials contact at your school. So you're going to want to be in contact with that person. Sometimes it's an assistant principal, and make sure that they have a total number of boxes that you will be adding to that pickup and a long-term location. The warehouse needs to know where the boxes are being stored, and you need to keep in mind that the off-adoption textbooks and reading materials are generally picked up in October and November of each year. These are not picked up by the ponies, they are picked up by instructional materials department. And I just attached one of the reading library materials labels for your convenience. It's also on Library Current. Are there any questions? Yes, Betty.
I had a couple. The first question is, like the big books that were like, I guess they were like kindergarten teacher books that have tapes with them. They don't fit in a box. So I asked some of the teachers that they want them, and they were like, no. They already have a bunch of books from the other series. So how do I box, or I don't know, what do you do for those big old, they're huge with tapes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. What I would probably do is fold them in half because in a box, Stephanie may have a better idea.
Those can go directly on the pallet when they get picked up. So you can just move them into the room or the area that you're housing all the materials. And so when the guys from the warehouse come to pick it up, they'll just take the whole bundle of the big books, stick it on the pallet. So you don't really have to pack them or do anything. Just put them in a pile somewhere with all the other material that's going to get picked up that time.
So do we need to put that like in the notes when the AP fills out that form, that there's going to be a whole, because there's about 100 of them in the back room?
Yeah, it'll just have to be accounted for in your numbers.
Okay, so so you count it like you just say 100 big books? Is that what we say in there?
I'm not sure what the form looks like or how she has you set it up. I mean, those books wouldn't even take up a pallet. Okay. So however, work with your AP to figure out the number of or how you need to word it on the form.
Oh, okay. The other question I had was the extra BOB books, like I have like 4 copies of a lot of the books. Are we able to just give them to the kids that were in BOB, like the extra copies?
Is that me again?
I don't know, anybody.
Yes, just as long as, remember that you consider it as a donation that you're giving them away. So they would have to be posted if you haven't posted them already, that you're giving them out to the students. But then as long as you cross out the barcode, if they're library books, you've weeded them and the kids want them, yes.
When you say I have to post them as a donation, what does that mean? So even though I had posted them up to order it, I have to post it again that I'm donating it?
No. If you've already posted them and they're clear, that's fine. But in general, if you're donating books to students, if they have not been posted first, they would need to be posted.
No, it's the BOB books.
But then, yes, you can cross them out as long, weed it out of your system and then give them to the students.
Okay. Okay.
The age appropriate ones for each grade level.
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
only do fifth graders. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Carolyn?
Hi. So going back to when you were talking about before we'd run the tidal wave analysis report. So I've just done that. And so how is that, when we look at that, how does that report help you? Is it the dates? Is it, how would you read that to see what you need to weed?
I have one pulled up, Stephanie. Do you want me to share it just for a moment?
I mean, we can quickly go into title-wise analysis, but if that's going to help with the weeding discussion.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. Do very quickly. Point out the sections of it because we don't want to take away the time for that might meet. We need it for something else. So when you look at your analysis, and I just have a random one up here, you're going to see in this section, collection by nonfiction classification, there's age-sensitive areas. So this is one of the sections that you will want to look at, and it says explore more weeding candidates. And if you click on that, it's going to refer you to CREW, and it's going to give you the CREW formula. There is already for each section a designated starting point of settings for what Tidal Wave is using for the formula for determining whether a book is aged or not. So that's one section that you can look at. And it's also good to look at this collection by year and see the oldest books and see if those are relevant anymore. That's
Okay, thank you.
sure.
Any other questions for Kimberly? We will include more tidal wave information, I do believe, when we go over the collection development. And again, like Kimberly was saying, the best bet is visual and looking at the books and what's circulating. Be careful with the tidal wave when they're telling you a item is old. Just because it's old doesn't mean it needs to be weeded out. If it's in good shape, it's popular, and the material is still current. All right, so just use the tidal wave as a guide. Go ahead, Betty.
I had another question about the references. How do I find all the books that are considered references in my Destiny? Like, is there a section I can go to, like, to just see what books are considered references? Because some of the reference books on my over there that I'm probably going to try to weed out, they don't have barcodes on them, so I don't know if they count or not. They just have R and a number, but no barcode, so I don't know if it's a part of the collection or not.
You can run a shelf list or a title and copy list, and then you can, when they ask you what kind you want to run, you don't have to do all titles. Do a circulation type and just put reference.
Circulation type, reference. And you said the shelf. Where do you go for? Where do you
go to library reports and go to shelf list?
Library reports and shelf report. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? We are going to move on then. Thank you so much, Kimberly. That was very, very helpful. And like she said, we will attach the presentation to the recap email to send out to everybody so that everybody has a copy of it as well. Our PDD is coming up. We are returning back on March 31st with 2 virtual sessions for you guys. This is the last one of the school year. We have teamed up with Follett to go over creating the best makerspace and STEM area for your library and for your program. That's going to be our AM session. You can get up to 6 points. If you still need points, please be sure to sign up through ELM. I'm going to send out another reminder email with this flyer as well. It also has hyperlinks to the Google Meet on it for if you are attending, and I will also put in the details about the Google Meet. And then in the afternoon, Kimberly and Anya and Amanda, I do believe, maybe will be online with an open office type of platform for you to jump in and out and talk everything collection development, any questions, anything to go over. So that would be a good time for you to hop on in, ask your question, and then use the time that you need to do and work on anything that's still pressing for you. We're almost there. The Emma Gala is approaching. I did send out a presentation for you to complete your school slide. We want everybody to be included, so please make sure that you do spend some time creating your school slide. It could be as simple as easy as putting your name, your principal's name. You can add pictures. You can make it as unique as you want to your library program. There is a fantastic night planned for every one of you and your clerks, and if you invite your principal as well, please make sure that you bring extra cash if you want to participate in the raffles. There will be drinks, after hours. So again, it's almost time to celebrate. We hope that everybody will join. If you have not already done so, please, I do believe that the RSVP was already supposed to be sent to Carolyn Epstein at Binks, but if not, please reach out to Emma and her and join us for that evening. Like I said, this class is going to be worth 20 points at the end of the school year. If you need points, please sign up. And then at the end, there will be a cumulative homework assignment for you to complete at the end for you. Our first Topical Tuesday, when we come back from spring break, is going to be with our friends from Swank Licenses. There is a lot of questions pertaining to copyright of movies and what you can show of movies, your after school care, your school-wide movie nights, fundraising. There's a lot of questions. So we invited the Swank Licensing Company to come out and talk to everybody. So hopefully we can get a better understanding of what that is, why we need it, and what it is. And that's going to be on April 1st. But most importantly, have a wonderful spring break. Relax, rejuvenate, do something that you enjoy. You deserve it, and we appreciate everything you do. We do know that the springtime is one of the busiest times for you guys in your library. So please take time for yourself and do something that you enjoy. If there is no other questions right now, we'll go ahead and we'll end the meeting, but we'll stay online just for a few more minutes, just in case you guys have a couple of questions. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll stop the meeting.